Hello, my name is Klaus Kitzmueller. I am managing partner of Move Communications in Munich. And today we are sitting in the middle of New York City and in the ICOM World Conference 2016. And I'm using the chance to talk with two of my colleagues from agencies in the United States of America and UK about a topic that is very much top of the line in all German advertising media at the moment. And I guess this is similar in other countries. And this topic is content. So may I introduce to you Karen Seaman. She is CEO of Graham & Cresselt, our wonderful agency partner in Chicago, and Mike Leeson, who is Managing Director of Golly Slater in London. Karen, content is the better advertising?
Well, we don't think content is advertising. The way we define it, advertising is paid media. Content is everything else. It can be social content, which is where you are joining in a conversation that consumers are having, or it is producing content that starts a conversation, or content that answers questions. We really look at the two as being different because on one, it's paid and the brand is pushing their message out. The rest of the content that we're producing is really where the brand is joining in or starting a conversation. It's not a push out, it's a participation.
Okay. Michael, do you have the same discussion going on in the UK?
We do, and I agree entirely with Karen. I think there is a linkage between the paid-for advertising and the earned and shared media channels, and that still is a core idea. So whilst we're having the conversation around the creation of content, it still needs to be relevant to the brand. So on that basis, the way that we're working is that we're creating multidisciplinary teams with creative, conventional, traditional advertising content creators, but also then with more, if you like, editorial PR practitioners. But they all start from the same point, and that is the brief and the development of a core idea. And that core idea can be created by anyone. So it's no longer necessarily by the creative director. It could be through a PR executive. And then the content is then created around that idea.
Okay. But who is executing content?
Again, the barriers very much and traditional silos are being broken down because there is that question as to whether is content a PR responsibility or a creative responsibility. So the way that we're increasingly doing it is that we still may have our hero branded content, which could be a TV commercial. But the content that's created around the core idea. So, by way of example, if it's short film content, that can be actually executed by the creatives. We don't necessarily need to go out and hire a film crew. And then if it's say blogs or tweets or other forms of content, then again it's the people who can best create that. So there's it's team and laying between our creative content and our if you like our editorial content creators.
Karen, you're very much talking about the necessity of having a strategy for all the content work you do. First, what do you consider a strategic brand content? And secondly, who is responsible for doing this and for defining the strategy in your agency?
Well, we start by identifying the problem that we're solving for. What is the brand problem, issue, or what is the brand opportunity? And that's done by our core team of strategic planning, creative, media. It's really a group who works out the strategic framework. What is it that we need to do? From that, we develop what are the content pillars. And that falls out of mapping the consumer journeys. Once we identify who our consumer segments are, we map their journey. It may be a journey of deciding, do I want to buy this brand of shampoo? Is this a journey of deciding what I'm going to drink when I go out that evening, right, for our spirits clients? So we map the journey out and determine where we can intersect. Where can the brand intersect with the consumer? And that may be joining an existing conversation or starting a new one. That's how the content pillars are developed. Where on the journey do we need to intersect? What are some of the messages or opportunities or what's going on culturally? Or what conversation are they already having at this point? And how can the brand become a part of it?
Okay. As you are an agency with different disciplines under one roof, specifically with a strong PR unit or agency, you didn't mention PR in this surrounding.
That
are the PR
was
people sitting
very
on the
involved.
table?
They are absolutely. They are part of the core team, and actually, they play a big role in that because PR social, even though it is a team sport, PR social generally they hold the pen. They're the ones who are the key coordinators of the development of the content pillars and strategy.
All right. Who has the lead usually, if you can say that, or does it change depending on the client relations?
Usually, it is PR Social who takes the lead, but it is a team environment.
Okay. How about you, Mike? You also have a strong PR.
We do.
within the group?
We do, and like Karen, we also have in-house media. If I go back sort of 4 or 5 years ago, clients were still, and agencies, ours included, were still very much siloing our operations between creative, media, PR, etc. The whole thing about customer journey planning now is absolutely central to the way that we work. And like Karen, we get a team of people together. Increasingly, we're involving the client in those customer journey planning sessions as well, because they often hold some of the channels, like their website, by way of example, or if they've got their own social platforms, by way of example. So they need to be involved in that customer journey process. So we will literally start with a set of objectives that we're trying to deliver off the back of the campaign, then workshop with an integrated team, including the client, maybe including other agencies, if that's appropriate, and working through that customer journey. And I think the key thing throughout that customer journey is understanding what we want the consumer to do at each stage. So it can't be content just for content's sake. There's no point in just creating lots of stuff. It's creating it so that it's relevant. It's obviously targeted, but it's also timely. So throughout the customer journey, we understand what we want the consumer to do, or what we expect the consumer to do, as the next part of their journey, and then create content around that.
Okay, you just mentioned the client side. Now, in Germany, we experience that different clients handle the topic of content strategy as well as content execution very differently. Yeah, at some clients, the whole topic is located in their PR department. With others, it's much more on the marketing side. Can you say how that shows up in the United States? Is there any kind of roster, or is it as different?
Well, it is evolving. Yes, in some client organizations, content development is with the PR group, and in others it's with marketing. But what we are seeing is it is increasingly moving to marketing.
Okay, very interesting. How about
Yeah,
UK?
I think the same is true, and I think that's largely because marketing, under the responsibilities of the marketing director or CMO, they're the ones who invariably take the strategic lead. Often as well at chief executive level, those people have come up from a marketing rather than a PR background, so they tend to be much more alive to the need for a well thought through strategy. But again, increasingly involving all parts of their organization.
But does that mean for you that content is sort of moving from a corporate content focus to a sales-oriented and therefore marketing-oriented tool?
Yeah, it is, and I think that's part of the integration between the earned media through social channels through to the bought media. So if you're doing planning those independently, then there's no trade-off between the content you're serving out through social channels and that which you may be buying. So really you have to overlay and integrate both of those dimensions.
I would agree. I think content is becoming the mainstay of how marketers are telling the brand story or engaging with their consumers in a dialogue.
Okay, that's very interesting. How about the different sorts of content? Is there a development you could follow in the United States? Like it seems to be in Germany, where video content is going to be really most important, and other content like pure editorial is considered to be a minor tool.
Well, all types of content are important, but I think in the U.S., for most clients, video is emerging. But that's because consumers want to consume video, right? We have become so used to watching video to get our information or to engage. It's very visually oriented. I think it is moving in that direction. Video, but infographics still are key.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to mention infographics, animated films, those things which are take a little bit more time to create, but yeah, and it's really anything that enables the ease of communication, engagement, and also entertainment. So I think that just slabs of copy, are just slabs of copy. Short films, a bit of animation, a bit of movement, snippets of information that people can digest very, very quickly. That is definitely where it has to be.
Snackable content.
Got it.
So that's not necessarily always quality content, right? It's not the top, the good, the great story. Is it more little pieces of helpful sort of informational content that would be important or more important?
A lot of snackable content is what we go for. Quality, not sure what you mean by that. We think
story?
that you can have, it's not a big story, but we think that there can be quality because it's highly effective and the ROI is great on a continuum of produced content. It depends. It depends on what the opportunity is. Some pieces of content should live for 2 days, so you want to spend very little money on them because they're gone. But they can be very important pieces of content. Or there can be the larger, more expensive videos that are worth it. It depends.
How much, if you could say that, how much of your total revenues in the agency you would consider to come from content work?
I would say it's around 50%.
All right.
But that's largely because we've got, a significant PR operation. So they've been doing content for years. So
you would include the work that PR is doing generally into content, 100%?
Yeah, because so little of what they do is your traditional press release that goes into your traditional media. Pretty much everything that they do now is around digital content in one form or another. Let's
just stay with PR for a moment. As Mike said, it's the minority of the PR work that is done, which is traditional in terms of press releases and the media relations. How is that in the States? Is it the same? And besides this classic work in PR, what are the main points?
Well, at our agency, we have really evolved our PR group to be more of a content development group, very similar to what you are suggesting. Yes, we do some traditional PR, but it probably represents less than 10%.
Less than 10?
Less than
Okay.
10% of
All
what our
right.
PR group does.
So does that mean that you also engage other people that you would have engaged like 5 or 10 years ago in your PR departments? Does that go with it?
You mean working with other people in the agency?
Within the PR department, I mean.
We have
More journalists, more editorial people?
We are hiring people who are much more attuned, adept, and understand social. Because so much of the content we're developing is for social. We also, our PR group also works very closely with our media group, and Mike, you were mentioning this as well, so that we can get the right bloggers or the right YouTube personalities to engage with the brand, and they can develop content working with our paid media group as well as our PR social group. So yes, the people that we are hiring need to be good writers, but they need to be very digitally and socially focused.
Okay. I agree, and one of the things that we're increasingly doing is hiring people who, in their own free time, are writing about something which is interesting to them.
Unpaid?
So yeah, so they will. So we have food bloggers, a beer blogger, someone who does a lot of sort of trail cycling, and that's what they write about that in their own time. But the skills that they can bring to the agency are significant in terms of their, as Karen absolutely said, the understanding of the role of digital media, social media, and how you apply that in a work environment is key.
So do you actually engage journalists in your agency?
As employees?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone's come from a journalistic background, then the great thing is that they understand how to deliver a news story. What they now need to do, of course, is to understand that it's no longer invariably through traditional channels. But being a journalist, being able to write good editorial, snackable content, which is relevant, which has a news angle to it, is still a real skill. It's not just about the ability to write.
All right. I see we have a lot of things in common concerning the development of the importance of content. We experience that some of our clients are on a different level at that stage. Do you find it sometimes difficult to explain the importance or the relevance of strategically built and developed content?
Yes, with some clients. Our clients, if we were to look at a continuum of knowledge and understanding on the role of social and content in plans, we have clients along the entire continuum. But more of our clients are moving to getting smarter about it and recognizing its role and the strategic need, not just the need to produce stuff, but the strategic needs so that it's properly planned and all working together and in the right direction. So it's we're moving along the continuum, but it's still a broad range.
Okay. Do you find it hard to earn money with content as an agency?
That's a good question, because I think there's two dimensions, two parts to the answer to that question, Klaus. The first is getting our creative colleagues to understand that the answer may no longer be, €500,000 30-second TV commercial. It might be something which maybe costs €500 to create, because it's only got a shelf life of a day or 2 days. We have a big internal task to do to get people to understand that the monetization of this is no longer through a big production, by way of example. Saying that, it is a very labour-intensive piece of work to do. So if we're creating a series of short films, whilst the films themselves may not cost very much money, they need to be properly thought through and properly created in terms of an idea. Key there is to make sure that we're charging properly for that piece of work, so the high-value work, and be less interested in investing significant amounts of production money into, say, the films.
Quite a few of clients in Germany are starting, or at least thinking about the question if to engage their own content people, content staff. Do you see a development there in the States where agencies get less chance to do this kind of service because clients are doing it themselves?
What we're seeing are very large clients may have the need and the opportunity to do some of it in-house. Mm-hmm. And that may be a model that they are migrating to. I don't see that lasting for long because content development and content strategy, it still takes very creative people to put that together. And oftentimes, very creative people don't like to go client-side. They like an agency environment. They like the opportunity to work on multiple clients versus being very singularly focused. So at present, most of the work is being done by agencies, whether it's a content agency or an advertising or communications firm. Some migration for large clients, but I don't think that will be very successful. Don't think so.
I think that's right, and I think I've just written down two points. I think where agencies should be moving is to own the strategy. So, as I said earlier, creating content for the sake of creating content is not relevant. It's like producing 10 TV commercials which have no relevance to the brand. You just wouldn't do it. So owning the strategy, I think, is key, but also being brand guardians is also key, because it's very easy to create content which is off-brand. It's a craft and a skill to create content which is on brand, and the agency I think should be focusing on those two things, and sometimes be less concerned about the production of it, because that's not where the value can be added. Mm-hmm. It's in the top two tiers of strategy and brand.
So that is to get editorial excellence, work together with real brand knowledge and brand expertise. Could you agree with that? Because that is, I think, something that makes us, or is able to make us unique as an agency, because that's where we can focus on. Yeah. And we can draw expertise from both, in this case, from both sides. Yeah.
I think we've got to be careful that we don't get too precious about delivering all of the content necessarily, because that the client will see that as a commodity. We can't commoditize strategy or brand. Those are things which require a lot more high quality intellectual input, and that's where I think agencies need to net out.
Agencies are great at connectivity and craft, and I think ultimately that's what content is all about.
All right. That also brings me back to the question from the start. As I said, is content the better advertising? My answer, to be honest, would be that is absolute bullshit. Because it's not either or. It's just, in my opinion, it's just the question of getting the right content through the right channels to the right people. And this is nothing else as we did probably 20 years ago.
Good point.
just with different different tools, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I
Do you agree
think,
with that?
I agree. I think one of the things that we have to deconstruct is the term advertising and the term public relations (PR), because now it's all about serving content to influence a consumer along their journey, and if we get too hung up on the word advertising, which has particular connotations, or PR, which has particular connotations, then we lose sight of what we're trying to do. So for me, it's all about creating content, not using the word advertising or PR, creating content, creating being an important word, i.e. it has to be creative, because that's what we all do.
No matter what the size is or what the budget is.
Absolutely. And serving that up in a relevant, targeted, timely fashion, which is no different, as you said, to what we did 20 years ago. Because if we're running a TV campaign, that's relevant, it's targeted, and it's timely. I think the two key differences now is that we can make it personal, much more now with targeted digital media, and we can make it conversational, which we couldn't do with advertising, or indeed with PR. So now it's those two things which are making it different.
All right. So I also think that actually chances are much better today to really get your message to the client. Yeah, it's much more complex. There is no doubt about this. I think for clients as well as for agencies. But on the other side, you never had times where the chances were that good to have a set of tools that brings you right to your task or to your objective.
It's messy because there are so many opportunities, but it leads to greater effectiveness.
In the end, and this is probably the task that we all have to follow. So that was it. Thank you very much. Karen, thanks a lot for taking part.
Welcome.
Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye.